Welcome back to Chicagoland for the 2022 Word Cup. Jesse Matthews here coming to you from the tournament venue with Evans Clinchy on my left side. And we have a new remote commentator joining us for the next round, or new to today at least, Jeremy Khoo. Welcome back.
Hey, how's it going?
Really good. We're having a great time watching some high quality games today. We just saw Dave Wiegand pull up another big win. We have a new Dave stepping up to board one for this round. We have David Webb, who will be on board one, taking on the one and the only William Anderson. We're going to have to see how this one goes. Two excellent players. See if we can pull a chat here. Let's see who's here. Team Will and who is Team Webb?
Wanderer 15 versus Dweebo Vision. Two of the video content stars of the Scrabble world. Nice.
We've got that poll up. A couple minutes for you to put in your votes for who you are pulling for. Tied early on in the votes, 2 apiece. Give that a couple more minutes to run. Any early thoughts from you two gentlemen, given what you've seen from both of the players so far?
Well, obviously, Will is on an incredible run. He began the tournament at a mere 4-7, and he has since come roaring back, and is now 15-8. So he's on an incredible run, and he's been tough to stop. But obviously, David Webb has been consistent all tournament long. He's really been top 5 basically the entire way. So just a very consistent performance throughout for David Webb. They're both playing fantastic.
The game has started. It's my opponent to go first.
And
Looks like Will is looking at a bunch of different set plays, none of which managed to score very much. Doesn't look like there's much between them. You know, you play off the set and one of the E's somehow.
Looks like he's considering just plain old ZE. It's interesting. I think Elder is a pretty good leave. ELDER. Yeah, he's got those 2 tiles in his hand ready to go, maybe.
Akrater says, fishing for Deldar.
Yeah, it looks like Will's debating between Z and Z. A Quackle simulation actually says Zell is the one that's slightly better than both, because that leave of EEDR is a little better than EELR. But these are all very close. Not a huge difference either way. And he is going to play Z. So,
well,
a tiny mistake. It doesn't really matter. They're all good.
Is that interesting? It potentially sets up for 6-letter thread extensions.
Yeah.
Words ending IZEE.
Lots of extension possibilities. And Sonic Rick is wondering the same, asking if Will is aiming for an ized word. Yeah, seems quite possible.
So, Rebeller is good, right? Yeah, okay. Will has drawn Rebeller.
Oh, very nice.
But it seems fairly likely to get blocked. Oh, and maybe not. David might play ZR, hooking the A onto the end of Z.
Yeah, it looks like he's lined up. Yeah. It looks like he's lined up AUA, which would play making Zeta. And that would leave Rebeller open. Yep, there it is.
Joel Sherman mentions the reason Zell is better than Zed is not the lead necessarily, but the lack of huge snapbacks to triple word score. Yeah, I would be inclined to agree personally. All those possibilities.
I'm not sure if I really agree at all, because I think that both you and your opponent are equally likely to hit that spot. It's not as though it's likely that like David has the eyes bingo on his rack right away. It's more likely to come up later for either one of you at random. But I mean, these are very small distinctions.
Yeah, looks like we've got a challenge on Rebeller, which makes sense.
Okay.
It's kind of a strange word, as Cesar says, one who rebels is a rebel.
Right.
But it is a word,
Example.
so.
It's an example of a pronunciation difference because there's rebel and rebel.
Ah.
One is the noun and one is the verb.
But it's still a good point, though. That, like, you
Yeah.
don't really need a second
Yeah.
word for that. That's what rebel means.
Yeah. Sonic Rick is going with a different nuanced pronunciation.
A rebeller, yeah.
Someone who hits that bell over and over and over again, loudly waking him up on a Sunday. Francis asks, if options are close, then is it worth spending 3 minutes on the first move? Isn't it better to go quickly at the start to have more time when it's close towards the end? That is an excellent theory-based question.
It's the David Eldar School of Time Management. We were just talking about that earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we had Eldar on as a guest broadcaster earlier, and he was talking about how players are using too much time on these early turns. So I think he would agree with you on that.
Cesar points something out I was going to point out. Francis, yeah, usually unless you're Puckhorn. Yeah, Puckhorn the Mittermansuk. He was well known on the tournament scene for someone who would spend a very large amount of time in his first few moves permuting the many possibilities of how the board would play out after his first few moves, but he's very capable of speed playing when he actually wants to.
There is another player who matches this description. A player who we might have just watched last round.
Yes.
All right, so David has drawn many, many, many bingos. All sorts of stuff like Pudzier and Updries and Syruped. So looks like he's going to get one of those down.
Also very adequately describes the breakfast from this morning.
My breakfast was quite syruped.
Mine was not. Francis says, in French, spending 3 minutes on the first move is a lot since we have 20 minutes, not 25, and no additional minutes. Interesting. Francis, is this in classic as well, or is it just in duplicat?
Uprides is not a word.
Classic. Okay, so yeah, basically the two-player version. Okay, cool. No, that's interesting. We talk about having it would be a variant for us technically where we play with 20 minutes or anything less than the standard 25, but interesting to hear it's a standard 20 in French.
So David is choosing Pudzier here rather than Syruped, which is 10 points less than just playing Syruped next to Zeta. I'm not sure what that's about, but okay, he'll play Pudzier. We got ourselves a tie score, 94-94.
This looks like he just missed Syrup,
Yeah.
which is fair. It's one of the weirder ones with these letters.
Very true. Will is going to play a word that we were just talking about last round of Equant, the E-hook on Quant. And that is very clearly the best play, so we'll just play it quickly.
Points. Can't argue with points.
Love to see points. Will plays it so quickly that David is still drawing his previous rack.
And Will greeting the Twitch audience at the same time with a hi, as we see lots of highs in the chat.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're seeing some letters here for David finally. It looks like they're interesting ones.
Foamingly through
Yeah, foamingly. Yeah, there you go.
IN.
There's a big spot for foamy in that top right corner, overlapping Equant or Equant. And Gloam also plays in that spot, so Some pretty heavy scoring options available here for Mr. Webb. Malfoy is not a word. Sad.
Indeed not. And I see that eventually you got to Kyphotic in the chat. Actually, fun little fact with our dear friend William Anderson. We were doing leg day and we were talking about posture, making sure that neither of us went kyphotic in posture as we were doing back squats. Kyphosis minus an S. That's a fun word as well. You know that one?
Is it Skifoy?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, so David is thinking this over. I'm hoping he'll see, that spot for Gloam or Foamy up top. Those are pretty clearly the two best options because they unload the most of these consonants and score in the high 30s. You can also play Mayo or Lomi as a play underlapping under Equant. All of your best plays pretty much are up there. And he does play Foamy. I think that's a solid option. 35 and a pretty strong leave of GL. Relatively strong compared to the alternatives he could have kept.
Do any of you remember Foamy the Squirrel? Did you ever see those? That was like back in the Flash video, Flash cartoon days. R.I.P. Macromedia Flash. Cesar mentions
like...
Happy Tree Friends. Nice. That's a very different web cartoon. A little bit more violent. Sorry, go ahead.
It looks like Will doesn't quite have the right tiles to play on top of Foamy. That actually, that's like, it's actually very close. If he just had another O, he would have Hook for like, 1 million points.
Well, you can just play OK, which is 49, which is almost a million.
Well on your way to a million anyway. Good start.
Yeah, I mean, he'll probably be thinking about OK, but the leave is not ideal. It might be the best option just based on the score, but probably will be looking around for something else first. Whereas if you had Hook, you just play it very quickly. At least if you follow the David Alder school of time management.
He can also play THO, to get rid of an extra tile in the same spot. Not a million, but 43 is pretty close to a million as well. Just checking whether David's rack has any bingos in it. And there is one possible 8 with Magalos plus a blank. Oh, I guess I just gave away what the answer was by saying Magalos. The answer is Magalogs. I put the letters in order for you. My bad.
Big now.
Yeah, Magalogs is the only 8 with that rack, and there is no available G for him. Oh, a Magalog. It's a portmanteau. It's a mail order catalog. That's funny. Words are weird sometimes. So Will is perhaps looking at OK. You can see he's got those 2 tiles arranged at the end of his rack there.
Magandi. That's a fascinating definition there. We might have to ask our guest commentator this afternoon if he knows that word. We'll reveal who that is in a little bit of time here.
Perhaps it's some sort of Northern Ireland slang. Is that what you're implying?
I think so. And that's a little hint as to who we might have on the stream. We'll see if you can guess who our afternoon guest commentator will be. We're excited to have him here.
Yeah, absolutely. Suggestion of THO in the chat from Marlon. I think I like it. And apparently Will Anderson does too. It's coming down. I'm not sure if Will's hit his clock yet. I guess he's still writing down scores and evaluating his options. Okay, there's the clock. Okay. No G for Magalogs like we talked about, and not a lot of like huge standout star plays here. You're probably going to be scoring in the high 20s when you dump your G and your M.
Said no one says Alamo, never forget. Aw, a little bit of American history there for y'all.
In Scrabble, you definitely should remember the Alamo because it is a valid word. It is a kind of poplar tree.
That meets one of the, like, we used to joke about there being like 4 definitions for any word in Scrabble ever. It's usually some kind of shrub, a currency. I forget what the other words are, or the definitions, but it's always like shrub, currency, and 2 other ones. Oh wait, a univalent radical.
Radical.
That appears as a definition more often than I would have thought, like with the YL words. Or a mineral, says Rebecca. There you go. Or the others are fish, says Alex Dings. Yeah, there tends to be this several major categories. Yeah, or insects, says Joel.
So what are we looking at here for David? Gloam. I think I like Gloam a little more than Alamo.
Yeah, Gloam looks pretty strong, or just Ogam keeping your L. You could also
I don't like L's.
You could play Gamma if you like to leave OLS. I don't know.
Marlon suggests 11C Glam as the play here.
Well, why would you play Glam and keep a leave of AOS? That seems a little clunkier.
I agree, Cesar. There's some amazing words that are coming up in the chat here. Mary thought, I had no idea. That's awesome.
Rusimov has a very good English vocabulary for a Frenchman.
It looks like David is opting to take points and use the S to hook at us.
Okay.
How much more is this compared to Gloam?
That is a good question. Is he playing Gams? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, my video's a little blurry.
Gams is 35.
Yeah, 35 rather than like Gloam would have been 28. So.
And as is pointed out in the chat, it's not particularly an S-friendly board. That's a valid point.
That's true, but this ALO leave is also not very good.
Yeah, and Joel Sherman says, Dweeb is following Joel Wapnick's maxim, S's are meant to be played. Yeah, that's definitely one school of thought in this case. That what was the threshold before? Like, I think with that line of thought, it was usually like 8 or more points additional that you would play the S. I think it is something along there. Joel, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's one of the schools
I think it's like 8 to 10, but you also want to vary it based on the board. Like, you should be more than that if it's a really open board and less if it's a closed board, but generally 8 to 10. The issue, though, with Gams is you're not just playing your S, you're keeping ALO, which is a lot clunkier than ALS. It's just, a little bit vowel heavy. I don't know. I wouldn't have played Gams myself. But. Okay, so the best play for Will is definitely Yeah, and he does play Yeah. So that gives him 44, and it starts to pad his lead a little bit. He's up by 67.
Wait, I don't really understand the mental math being done in the chat. Gloam, by my count, is 28, and Gams is 35. So it's just 7. It's 7 additional points for the S.
And your leave is a lot worse. Yeah.
People are saying like much larger numbers. So I'm not sure what candidate plays they have in mind, which they're comparing to Gams, but by my count, it's 7.
Yep.
Definition of an invalid version of Woobit. That's a throwback to an earlier round.
I think somebody put down Woobit and then picked it up, right? Conrad, I think. Put it down, thought about it, and then took it back correctly.
Did he actually pick it up? Okay. Yeah.
I think so. I think he played like oboe or something instead. Who can remember? My brain is just a complete mush.
I just can't remember if he actually played it or if it was picked up.
Wow. That's an aggressive play.
It sure is.
Will's very pleased to see this, of course, with the X on his rack.
Yeah. We can play Axite. Seems like a very, very strong option for him.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a way to play the rack over 2 turns? Somehow. That's the first thing I'll be thinking about here.
What do you mean?
Like, can you play something and then set up for the X, or like play the X and set up for your other high scoring tiles to score again?
You wouldn't just play Axite for 60 right away?
Well, I mean, it's pretty good, but I would maybe spend a little time thinking about, if there's potentially something better. He's thinking about Betake, for example. And then, are there other X spots? There is, I guess, PIX. Betake does take out the X hotspot over Aioli, though.
Yeah. It'd be better if you had a word that put a vowel next to that A, not a consonant, but don't think you do.
Marlon's logic further up was Gloam was better versus the Unseen Pool, and I believe that's in comparison to Gams. Akratur asks, is it ever right to just play XI and block the lanes? I would say it's probably only right to just drop that. Actually, wait, are you talking XI parallel in that case and just block? I mean, it's potential. I mean, I would say it's positionally dependent as to whether you would do that. But it could be in certain situations. Well, it's definitely taken his time to work through possibilities and which one he thinks should be.
Yeah, I think this is a good use of his time, even if Xite ends up being the best play. This is the kind of situation in which Nigel gains an edge over everyone else by being able to play his rack over 2 turns. So an interesting thing about Xite, looks like it's coming down, is that there's some obviously there's some extensions. So David almost has a UTAC side. Not quite. See what other possibilities there are. Oh, it's just UTAC side. It's probably not very likely in that case. Most of the U's have been played.
A little bit of discussion about why would Betake not be a good play, and as it's pointed out, it is a good play. You know, it's a very good play. It's just in this particular position, the argument is Axite is a bit better, and one of the reasons for that was pointed out is that there's not particularly a great spot or 2 spots guaranteed for using that X on the next turn, so you might as well cash it in now. There's nothing wrong with Betake as a play; it's just not as good. And then, as I mentioned, Will has pulled Debarked. Through the E in Rebellers.
Yeah, very nice. Debarked is the only bingo, and Will plays it quickly. You love to see it if you're one of the Sandersons.
Yeah, the Standersons are loving this show of dominance from the good William R. Anderson. Alex says, when a phony is played on Google's, it is debarked off the board. Nice. And Jeremy Hildebrand points out the blank is off center, as in it has been turned sideways. Yep.
Oh, instant game loss. Sorry, Will. You thought you were going to win, but no. Coco rules are in effect.
Oh, it's not the majority oriented in the right direction in Coco.
If the blank is sideways, you're disqualified from tournaments for 1 year.
Ooh, I didn't know this rule.
Just
Shoot.
kidding.
Will has drawn UTAC side.
Oh my gosh, look at
Wow.
that.
And you know he knows the word.
Sure.
Patchy, penalized for orientation in 2022. Shaking my head. Nice. As is pointed out in the chat, hominies for Dweebo Vision. The H and yeah.
Might want to play Hominize, give yourself a hook, because you need to bingo like many more times to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Hominies and Hominize are the two highest scoring bingos here.
I'm having someone write us a new Google sound theme. Maybe the new thing will be a meow. Nice.
How about a meow for a valid word? Like when there's a challenge, it either meows or barks, depending on valid or invalid. All right, Hominies comes down. Is that Hominies or Hominize?
Hominies.
Okay. A little bit blurry on my picture here. That brings him within 85. If he gets really lucky from here, maybe he's got a shot, but it's going to be an uphill battle.
You know, at minimum, UTAC site, as previously mentioned, is going to be among the candidate plays. We're getting some
Eventful.
swappage. Yep, eventful.
Eventful looks very nice.
From the E in tax site. If we were playing that variant of Scrabble, that would be an amazing play. And eventful when you, yes. As it's
Pretty good draw for David Webb.
Yeah. Conceit, as is pointed out in the chat on his rap. And more specifically, tectonic from the T in tax site. Very nice. Wavin points out Occident. I am assuming that would be referring to something based in the East. I haven't seen that definition, but that's my guess.
So very interesting choice here between Utaxite and playing a word like flu that gets rid of more of these consonants. And it looks like he is going to choose Utaxite. Okay. 45 points. Can't argue with that. I mean, you can, but 45 points is good. And then lots of bingos available here for Mr. Webb. I think we've already covered them all, right? Occident, conceit. Oh, and there's one more. Oh, tectonic. Yeah, you guys found all of them. Good job. Occident is the highest scoring one, 82 points through that D and D barked.
And point out in the chat by Foundering, it's Will. Of course he flexes with Utaxite. I can confirm, Will is a flexor. Definitely a flexor. Going for all the gains, word gains and gym gains.
All right, tectonic is going to come down.
Well, if David draws another bingo here, he actually might be in it because he
Yeah.
doesn't draw any vowels.
Tectonic puts him within 52. And yeah, wow, Will has a terrible rack. You're right. He might have to exchange here. Maybe not, though. We've got 17 unseen tiles. There will be 10 in the bag once David Webb draws 7 of them out of there. So here for Will, you're up 52. You can exchange. You can play flu through the E and D barked for 20. You can play pone, PWN, always a fan favorite.
We love our ponage.
Wow. That's another pretty good rack for David Webb. This is shaping up to be a much closer game than it looked to be just
Yeah,
a couple
very
moves
interesting.
ago.
It's not far off of Injera's. Very, very close.
So if Will plays Flu, he'll be blocking some of David's best plays with the J, such as Jib and Raj. So very pivotal thing here for Will, whether he's going to exchange or play through this. And he is going to play Flu. Okay, I think that's good for him because it's going to block a lot of David's best plays. We're going to bring up the unseen tile pool in just a second. There are now 7 in the bag as David starts to think about this pre-endgame situation. This is not going to be easy for him. There's places he can play off the J with a word like Aji or Jai, but those aren't going to score that much. And bingoing is going to be not impossible, but I would say a little difficult on this board. Yeah, it's pointed out in the chat that there are some clunkers in this pool. You're looking at GGVVW as 5 of the remaining 14. Although the G's are actually a good thing if you're going to keep a leave like INRS. Like an ing bingo is very possible with the right draw. The V's are not good.
I can't really see a way to open up the board anymore. So he probably wants to just play the J in a way that's the least obstructive to any of the lanes.
So maybe playing JAI in the top left corner then? That would be 25. It would put him only down by, 31 points or something? I'm struggling at math, but something like that. 37?
Yeah, so from even though the unseen tiles include only 4 vowels, I think David should be able to infer that Will doesn't have many vowels from his play of Flu. So
Yep.
RG plays off 2 of his vowels, which is not, just looking at the unseen tiles, that's not the best, but it might be okay given Will's last play. You can just hope to draw the vowels.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is for David that you need to get lucky anyway to win this game. So you might as well play for the cases where your draw is on the luckier end of the spectrum, because you're just going to lose anyway if you don't get a very lucky draw. Yeah, David definitely taking his time on this turn. It is a pivotal one, as these pre-game situations often are. He's still got 8 minutes. Plenty of time to process all of this. I'm sure he would love to find some kind of fantastic J play, but there's really just not much. I mean, you're not going to do much better than just a simple play of Jai.
Joel Sherman is suggesting Ahi on top of Tectonic, starting with the T in the middle, working over to the right as his choice of play.
It kind of blocks some of your bingos, though, doesn't it? All right, he's going to play Jar, scores a little bit more, and if you draw a G, rising plus another tile, that could work. All right, updating the tile pool now, as well as the score. Will's up by 46 with 5 in the bag. And David is going to keep us in suspense by putting his tile face down. Okay, just kidding. He has drawn, I think, something not very good. I don't think AR is quite going to do it for him.
Meantime, here comes Wept.
Yeah. So Wept leaves just 1 tile in the bag. And question now for David is, what can you fish for with 1 tile? And it's got to be a word that plays in 2 spots. I'm not sure if that's going to be possible. He does have the 1 bingo lane underneath the PI in in line 12 there. But if you just have the one bingo there, Will's going to know that, and he's going to block it.
Will trolling the chat with egg. Very nice.
Egg. So David's going to spin the board back to him, and we'll take some time to think this over, but I'm just not sure if anything's going to happen for him here. He's also down by enough points that I don't think even if he can get a bingo, there's a way to get a high scoring enough bingo to win.
So Joel's elaborated a bit on the Aji placement that he was mentioning. He's saying it opens more with the IN hook than it would have closed to the PI hook as far as taking away the PI hooks. Thanks for that clarification, Joel. Appreciate that. Looks like another comment. Good thing the A and D bark is open for VAV. Yeah, that would be definitely a good way to unload those V's, assuming that stays open. Lewis asked, don't think there's anything through the blank A hooking a jar. That's a good question.
Oh, yeah, I see what you mean. Certainly check for that, but I would also have some doubts.
So Rawin is the play that David Webb opts for.
Looks like a giving up play, and I think giving up is probably correct because there's not much you can do. So emptying the bag, keeping 4 on David's rack, and it's just up to Will to kind of play this end game out now. He's going to win this one. Looks like Will is arranging the letters in Nog on his rack. Nog plays for 25 points underneath Aioli there.
So a little early in the year for eggnog, isn't it?
Looks like Will's considering egg or Nog, but not both.
Yeah, only one.
It's funny, the computer is saying Gong is actually a better play than Nog. I'm guessing that's because it blocks David's best play of VIS making tectonics. Because if you play Gong a little bit farther over to the right, yeah, you can't put an S on tectonics anymore.
Lewis asked, was Will 4 and 7 at one point? Because that's quite a comeback. Yes, I can confirm Will was sitting at 4 and 7 and has since gone an incredible run.
He's going to be 12 and 1 since then, yeah. I just saw David Whitley in the hallway a few minutes ago, and he said, I sure am glad that when I faced Will, it was during the 4 and 7 part of the tournament.
Fair enough.
To be clear, he was one of the 7.
Yeah. To elaborate on that, even I was talking to Will about it today between sets, and he was saying that he didn't feel like he played that bad. In those first games, he just couldn't pull out the wins. And since then we're seeing a wide swing to the other side, where it's been pretty much all wins from that low point of 4 and 7.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Nog with the 2 G's is an eggnog or similar drink. So look at that. He can have the egg and the nog, but not literally in the word. Just the word itself. That's cool. I did not know that's what it meant.
And of course, the obligatory, oh, the whips in chat when I mentioned David Whitley.
Indeed.
Oh, the whips, indeed. So the play here for David is almost certainly VIS making tectonics. I can't imagine there's anything better. And neither can Quackle. So I think that means there isn't anything better.
Well, he might not be sure of tectonics, I guess.
I feel like plate tectonics, that's a common phrase,
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
But
Cranog, yeah. I've played that one before. It's a nice one. And there was a question. Where was that question? I saw it. I don't want to miss it. Just scroll up. There it is. Deeper Minotaur asks, what's a good way to practice aside from just playing? Read the dictionary a lot. Ooh, this is one that we could talk a lot about. And I feel like no matter what, I'm not going to mention every single thing that's out there and someone's going to be mad at me. But I'll do my best. That's a big question. So yes, obviously playing by sheer repetition and seeing positions and words come up, you will absorb words and word vision and such that way. But there are tools that we also use to practice. Joel Sherman has mentioned one of them. Aerolith is a tool developed by Cesar del Solar, who is in the chat today as 14 Domino. He created that tool. He's also part of the team responsible for Woogles, which is a platform online available for anyone to play. Can I say it's Scrabble or crossword brand word game? I think in that case, I'm not sure. I forget where all the different trademarks are. I think crossword brand word game would be safe for that one. There's also, let's see, Xerafin is a tool that's used to study Collins only words. What else do we have out there? I'm trying to think of any other major tools.
Well, not Collins only words. Words in Collins maybe.
There you go.
You can study,
Sorry.
QI.
Yeah, you're correct. You're correct. I'm just trying to make sure I cover everything in the answer here, and I'll miss something no matter what. Mr. Purvis says, do you have to create your own lists for Aerolith, or are there pre-made ones that can be searched and downloaded? The answer is actually both.
Both, yeah.
You can use pre-made lists, or you can make your own. A lot of people make their own based on words they've missed in previous challenges, or they have themed word lists. Yeah, there's lots of options for practice on Aerolith. Very user-friendly.
So David just does forego tectonics. He does play Vis, but without hooking tectonics.
All right, so after VIS from David and then Vent from Will, we're going to have a final score of Will Anderson 511, David Webb 420. So Will continuing his fantastic run. He has now won 12 of his last 13 games, and he's going to have a shot at second place depending on how some other results shake out this round. But he is very much in the hunt for the number 2 overall spot in the tournament. Of course, he's going to have a hard time catching Dave Wiegand for first, but anything can happen. We shall see.